when we are working on the standard, it seems like a whole bunch of stuff that they want us to do, but that's because they use those big fancy words that we've been working on learning. So as we read through this, let's break it down a little bit. It says, I can refer. When you refer to something, what do you do to it?
You like tell someone about it?
Kind of. It's almost the opposite of that though. What do you think, Tajon?
Remember?
Nope, not remember. Think of a reference material. So if you have a dictionary, we call a dictionary a reference material because you go to that dictionary to look up the answer. Just like Mrs. Y says that she cites Miss Fetro for the Peaceful Days, she refers to Miss Fetro to get that information. So she put it in your own words. What does this word right here mean, do you think?
I think refer means count on someone.
To count on someone, I'll take that. Make it more simple. To depend on someone, simplify it even more.
Figure out.
Not quite. You use them to figure out the answer. It's this easy, guys. I can go. Go to, look at. You can go to or look at. And in this standard, what are we going to or looking at? Alan?
Details and examples in the text.
Okay, so I can go to the details and the examples in a text. What's a detail? What's a detail? If you're not sure, think about what we wrote on detail last week. What's a detail? Brandon?
A detail is like a part of something that happened.
Okay, Shamir, help him. He's almost there. What?
What happened?
Yeah, it's a part or a piece of what happens. So I can go to the details and the examples. I can go to or look at what happens in a text. If we were, never mind, I'll leave it alone. I don't want to confuse you. So I can go to or I can look at what happens in a text. How many of you feel like you can do that? You know how to go back in a text and look at what happens, right? How many of you feel like you can do that when you want to explain what happens in the text, right? So if I say, let me think of a story we read recently. Board, board, board. If I say, Sammy the squirrel was bored, bored, bored. How many of you can tell me one of the details that helps you know he was bored, bored, bored? You don't even have to do it. But think back about that story that we read, and you can come up with one example in the text that tells me that he was bored.
Yeah.
Then you can already do part of the standard. So, what does explain mean? Nevaeh? Tell. So I can go to or look at what happens in the text when telling what the text says. Ooh, what's that word? I said it once. How many of you caught it? Izzy? Explicitly. I'm going to give you this one, but make sure that you write it really closely. Explicitly means word for word. Sometimes when we read a story, it comes right out and says, Sammy the squirrel was bored, bored, bored. That's an example in the text that tells us word for word that he was bored, bored, bored. But sometimes they don't always come out and say he was bored, bored, bored. Sometimes they come out and say, the boy was sitting at his desk, deeply sighing, and he was twiddling his thumbs. Did they come out and say he was bored?
No.
No. But are you able to figure out that he was bored?
Yes.
That is a detail that you figured out by drawing an inference. So when we draw an inference, we figure something out by using what the text says and what we already know about it. So you know what it feels like to be bored. You know what it feels like to sit at a desk, deeply sigh, or twiddle your thumbs, or stare at the ceiling. So when you hear in a text that that's what someone is doing, you automatically know that they are bored. You have already made that inference. So at the end of the day, what we're going to be working on is the ability to go back or to look at the text and the details in the text to explain what the text says word for word and what the text doesn't say word for word, but you know because you can figure out. Questions? Ready to do it?
Yes, ma'am.
You may put this away. You got something you can use that in?